And thank you for joining the Time Is Always Now podcast. I am your host, Terence Young, and thank you for joining me again. This is a podcast that is dedicated to helping people get past their excuses, helping people stop from saying, you know what, I'm going to do it tomorrow, I'm going to do it someday, I'm going to do it one day, and realizing that the only time to do anything is right now. This is the only time we have. This podcast is dedicated to empowering, encouraging, and motivating people to make changes in their lives for the better right now. That's what it's about. It's about harnessing the power in the eternal moment of now, because it's the only moment we have. So I appreciate you joining me. If you'd like to donate to the cause, by all means you can do so. That allows me to continue to do what I do and spread these messages out into the world. If you want to donate, you can go to my website. It's terenceyoungnow.com. You can donate there, and I would say thank you in advance for anything that you'd like to give to help me to continue to do what I do the work that I do. I'm very passionate about it, and my mission is to motivate, encourage, and inspire others to move forward to make changes in their life for the better right now. So I'm excited about today's topic. It's been a great week. I've been working on the classes, just so I'll update you on the creating an engaging speech class. I'm excited about that. Getting the videos started now. Looks like it's going to be about 18 to 20 videos. So I got a lot of work ahead of me, but I'm excited about sharing my knowledge of speaking and being able to share that with other up-and-coming speakers that want to get into the speaking environment, even in this crazy time. Hey, it's going to come back, and we have to pivot too, right? Right now we're doing a lot of Zoom and recorded messages and things. I'm actually recording a message tomorrow on Saturday for a Sunday message that's going to be put up on YouTube. So things are changing, but it's still moving forward. So I'm excited about sharing my knowledge of speaking on that. The passion course is already up. 3 keys to finding your passion. So if you know someone who is still struggling to find their passion, by all means, get them in touch with my class. They can find it on my website, terenceyoungnow.com. So excited about that. I love helping people find their passion. I'm passionate about helping people find their passion. It's what I do. So excited about that. This topic today, this is so important to me, because we have so many things going on in the world right now that we can talk about. And I love this subject. And the subject is this: the Confederate statues. What should we do with them? Huge subject. We talked about it on my Time Is Always Now discussions on Tuesday night, and I just couldn't help it. I wanted to bring it back up to now so more people can join in on this conversation with me on this podcast. I would love to hear your messages and your responses. So I'm going to put this in the show notes when I post it to my blog, so you can answer the questions too. What do you feel about the removal of monuments and what we should do with them as far as the Confederate monuments? So I'm gonna give you some ideas on what I think we should do and how things should be done, and we'll go from there. So here's what I think. I like to look at it this way. We're asking the question, why should we take down these monuments? It's a big question right now, coming from the president on down. Why should we take down these monuments? We shouldn't take these monuments down, this and that. I think we should flip the question and ask this: why did we put them up? This brings a different response, a different feeling. Ask the question: why did we put this monument up, whatever this monument may be, right? Why did we put this monument up? So when you ask of that, then we can break it down into a broader question. Why do we build statues for people? Why do we make monuments of people? I think the answer isn't difficult. The answer is pretty simple. It's because that person did something great in whatever their profession, their world, whatever they do. They did something great that we honor. We say, wow, that's amazing. So I like to use a simple example like Michael Jordan to start. Michael Jordan has a statue, right, in front of the Chicago Coliseum, or whatever they call it now, because we know why. Because he was a great champion there. He won 6 NBA champions, arguably considered the greatest player of all time. There's a couple other players that might have something to say about that, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, who knows, maybe even LeBron James before he's done. We'll see, right? But he has a statue because, well, he's a great basketball player. This isn't trivial, right? He's a great basketball player, so he's got a statue. That's easy to understand. Now, was he perfect? No, he wasn't. We know he had flaws. We know for a fact that he had a gambling problem, right? We know that, right? But the statue is of what? Clearly, it's of him playing basketball, right? Statues in front of the Chicago Coliseum, it's with him holding his basketball, Michael Jordan form, like he's gonna go dunk it. I think he's got his tongue out and everything. Makes sense. The statue is not of him sitting in a New Jersey casino during the NBA playoffs, which he did, by the way. But it's not of that, because that's not what we're celebrating, right? This is important to understand. I know it's just about basketball, but we'll get to the Confederates in a minute. The statue is of him playing basketball because we know he's a great basketball player. We're celebrating him as a basketball player. So it's a statue of him playing basketball, not of his flaws. Important. Now we'll go to Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King has a statue. I've been to DC. I've seen many of the monuments. There's a lot of them. I might have missed a couple, but definitely saw that one. Amazing. Amazing. The monument, the plaques on the outside of it in marble with tons of his quotes, probably 30 or so, and then him, right, coming out of that stone mountain, right? His bust is coming out of the mountain, and it says, out of a mountain of despair, a stone of hope. Clearly, it's talking about what he was to people, fighting for civil rights, for hope, for all people, not just African Americans, but really for everyone, for civil rights, right? So it makes sense. We honor that. We built a statue for it, a monument for it, because of that, because of what he did. Now, was he perfect? No, he wasn't perfect. He had flaws as well, but we don't have a statue of him doing other stuff. The statue is definitely about civil rights. It clearly states that. Clearly, the quotes are about all the quotes he made about civil rights, and that's what he fought and lived his life for. That was his mission. Cool. No one has a problem with that. He should have a statue. It's good. So we know why we put statues up. So then we need to go and ask ourselves, why did we put Confederate statues up? I think it's a great question. I read somewhere, I have it here, that there are still over 1,700 monuments to the Confederacy in public spaces around the United States. That was a study from 2018 saying there are over 1,700 monuments to Confederates in public spaces. So what do they represent? Why did we put them up? Why and when did we put them up? It's a great question. Well, the Confederates were fighting in the Civil War against the North, South against the North, to keep slavery. So they were fighting against the United States of America. It's not complicated. People want to make this complicated, like that wasn't what the war was about. That's what the war was about. It was about slavery. The Confederacy wanted to keep slaves. This is important. We have to discuss this. This is where the whole discussion breaks down. People are actually still wanting to rearrange the Civil War as if it wasn't about slavery. No, that's what it was about. We know that. Let's stop playing games with that. The Confederacy was literally fighting against the United States of America. They were separate. They wanted to keep slaves. The North said, no, this is not right. This needs to stop. It needs to stop now. That's what it was about. So when we put up statues for Confederate generals, what are we celebrating? So we talk about something like Robert E. Lee. He's a big one, right? Everybody says he's a great guy, he was such a great man, and this and that. What does a statue look like? I mean, he has many of them. I haven't seen all of them, so that's a conversation to have. But some of the ones that I've seen online show him in his Army uniform as a soldier for the Confederate, the South, which was fighting the United States of America, which was fighting to keep slavery. Why would we be honoring someone who was fighting and killing American soldiers to keep the right to have slaves? Why would we be honoring that in a public space? We have to ask that question. I know there's going to be discussion. I think there should be discussion about it, right? About that's why we asked the question, why did we put this up? Robert E. Lee fought against the United States of America. There's no doubt about that. He fought for the South. He fought for the right to keep slaves. We can keep looking at it and talking about it, but that's what it was. Why do we want to honor that? But and then let's look at some other people, because there's always this controversy. Like we've heard it already, coming from the president on down. They're going to get rid of George Washington, right? Look what we got here. Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln. I've been there. I've been to D.C. I've seen the monuments. Let's go ahead and get it out there. They all had slaves. Everybody had slaves, right? We know that. But why? The question comes right back. Why did we build the monuments for Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln? Did we build them because they had slaves? Did we build them because they were fighting to keep slaves? No. We built them because Thomas Jefferson was one of our founding fathers. So he has a monument, statues, because he's one of the founding fathers that created the country. Was he perfect? No, he had slaves. But he fought to get rid of that. He fought to stop that and create the United States of America where everyone can be free. He was a part of that. That's why he has a statue. Now, can that message get missed? Absolutely. Have there been people in other parts of the country wanting to tear down statues of Thomas Jefferson or Abraham Lincoln or George Washington? Absolutely. Absolutely. So the message is being misconstrued on both sides. But we need to know our history. What was he fighting for? Not the same thing Robert E. Lee was fighting for. What was he fighting for? We go to George Washington. Well, we know why he was being honored. Did he have slaves? He wasn't perfect? Yes, he did. But he was the first president of the United States of America. He's being honored for that. He's being honored because he was not fighting to keep slaves. No. He's being honored because, he's the first president of the United States of America. I understand that. But we have the Washington Monument. Kind of a big deal. Abe Lincoln. Same thing. He was not 16th president? Yeah. 16th president, and signed the Proclamation of Emancipation to free slaves. I think he might be being honored for that, and not because at one point he had slaves. Again, simply asking the question the other way around, why did we put the monument up in the first place, helps us understand. So no, we shouldn't tear those monuments down because they had slaves. And yes, I'd be the first one to argue that with someone who on one side or the other to saying, we'll tear them all down. No, you got to know your history. You got to know why the monument went up. If you ask that question, you'll get a better answer. I've talked about this before on the podcast. You have to ask the right question. If you don't ask the right question, you won't get the right answer. You'll get an answer, but it won't take you to where you want to go. If we ask the question, why did we put that monument up? Whatever monument we're looking at, then we'll get the answer. Now, it's still going to be a conversation. And that is because people will change the meaning of why the statue went up in the first place. But it's very simple. The Confederacy was fighting against the United States of America. The Confederacy wanted to keep slavery. The Confederacy believed that white supremacy was important. The Confederacy believed in white supremacy in the first place. So why would we want to honor someone who believed in that? Because we know that to be a fallacy. We know that not to be true. And we know that is what they believed because they wanted to keep slavery because they believed that it was the right thing to do at that time. So we don't want to honor that. No. Asking the question, why did we put the statues up in the first place, will help us get to the answer. Are there going to be discussions about certain statues? Of course there should be. I read somewhere there's a statue of, I think it's Abraham Lincoln. Somewhere they want to tear it down, and he's, I think Ohio. I don't want to get it wrong. Anyway, there's a slave kneeling at his feet, but the slave is getting up because it's supposed to represent the slave being freed and rising to his own self. I saw this on the internet. I haven't seen it myself, and there's controversy over this one. I understand the controversy. The artist, the sculptor who created this, felt like they were doing something powerful and showing Abraham Lincoln helping to free the slaves. However, it doesn't really feel that way when you look at it. I looked at it. I've read other African Americans who looked at it and said, I don't really like the way that looks. I don't really like that. You know, it doesn't feel good to an African American to see a slave kneeling down at his feet, even though it appears that the idea was he's supposed to be getting up. Well, it didn't convey that way. Should there be a discussion about that? Yes, there should. There should be a discussion, a long, lengthy discussion, and different avenues we can take to work around something like that. Because maybe in this case, the idea for that particular statue was going a certain way, but it just didn't convey it. And this brings me to my last point about these statues. Am I saying get rid of them as in tear them down and never see them again? The other argument that goes with this is people saying we are erasing history. We're not erasing history. I don't believe that it's erasing history. Should we not know who Robert E. Lee was and all these other people, these Confederate generals? No, we should know. We should know exactly who they are. We need to know our history. What we don't need to do is honor them in a public space with a statue or a monument like they're heroes when they fought against the United States of America and killed American soldiers for the right to keep white supremacy. That's what we shouldn't do. What we should do is either have these statues in a private showcase or whatever you want to call it somewhere, or they're still going to be talked about in books. They'll be talked about in movies, and they should be. We need to know what our history is on both sides. Everyone needs to know what our history is, because it is truly the history of the United States of America, which means everyone, not white, not black, or anything in between. It's all of our history, so we need to know it. The difference between knowing your history and honoring it with a statue and a monument are two totally different things. What do you think African Americans feel when they see someone honoring a Confederate general who wanted to keep slaves? It doesn't feel like anything I want to honor. When I go into a public space and see a huge statue of some Confederate general, knowing that that person believed that just because of the color of his skin, he was better than me, better than my mom and my sister and my brothers, my fellow African Americans, doesn't feel good at all. This is one of those things that sometimes, if you're not African American, you just don't get it. And I understand why you don't get it, but you just don't get it. It's honoring someone who believed in white supremacy. Remember, I said the word honoring on purpose because we asked the question, why did we put the statue up in the first place? Go back to Michael Jordan, because he did something great. Ask that same question to this general, to this Confederate person that's up on that, high horse somewhere. What's so great that they did that we want to honor them today? Some of these Confederate statues and monuments, by the way, were put up in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, some as late as the 70s. That tells you something about our society too. The 30s or the 40s. It's a long time after the Civil War, we're still honoring them. Even in the 70s, we're still putting up monuments honoring people who fought against the United States of America, killed American soldiers to keep the right to have slaves, to keep the idea of white supremacy, meaning whites are better than African Americans, better than anyone because of the color of their skin. Why would we be honoring them? It's so important. This question is so important. I love this conversation. Ask yourself this question. Get in your quiet space, get in your alone time, and ask yourself the question: how would it make me feel if we had a big monument in public spaces, all of them, 1,700 of them, by the way, 1,700, honoring somebody who said, I'm not as good as you. And you have to look at that all the time. People taking pictures with it and stuff. But you know what that person stood for. And you know that person's on that horse or in that uniform, because in that uniform and that horse, they killed American soldiers. In that uniform and that horse, they believed in white supremacy. That's why that statue is in that uniform, on that horse, holding that rifle or whatever they had in their hand, because they're being honored for what they did, which was kill American soldiers and believe in white supremacy and wanted to keep slaves. That's what we're honoring when we put them up. I'd love to hear what you think about this. Let's open up that conversation. I want you to ask yourself this question: why did we put the statues up in the first place? Why did we put them up in the first place? If you can get to that place in your heart, in your mind, then you'll be able to see it in a different light. Possibly. But I'd love to have the conversation with anyone. So be open to contact me, connect me, email me, comment on my blog. I'd love to have the conversation. So if you open up your mind and your soul and your heart, you too will be able to say, I own the now, and I am one. My name is T.Y. I'm signing off for now. Thank you again. Remember to share this post, share this podcast with your friends, with your family. I want everyone to get this message. Everyone needs to hear a message like this. So please share it. It's T.Y. I'm signing off. Remember, the time is always now.